Welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast, joined by Anthony and Sam, fresh off of a late podcast last night on quarterbacks. Have you guys gotten enough sleep?
Enough.
I looked up at the clock. I looked at the clock last night. It was 2 a.m. in the morning. I'm like, oh no, what have I done?
Yeah. So we covered quarterbacks last night. We were going to do a draft a team exercise, and we're going to use the Draft Professor Simulator to do this. So I am going to walk everybody through some of what we're going to do, so that if you want to try this at home, you know where some of the buttons are. So you need to name the event. And then we're going to have three people, and we're going to turn on two bots. So we're going to use the site bots because the team bots would rely on each team to have a robust player board. And at this point, I don't think enough mock drafts have been done for that to be too relevant. So for the site bots, I'm going to bump one of them to 9. I'm going to bump the other one to 2. And this is just to give some variety. So what 2 is doing is basically saying it's looking for a talent cliff within this is a multiplier. So I believe it's 2 times 7, because there's 2 times 11. There's 11 different positions here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 2 times 11 is 22. So this means that the simulator for this bot is going to look at the next 22 available players and look for a position of scarcity. With it being 9, this means that it's going to look at the top or the next best 99 players and look for a talent cliff at a position here. So if you think of positions that are rare, let's say in the top 100, that would be like safeties and centers. I would expect this bot to find safety and centers earlier because there's fewer of those. It might also find running backs because I don't know how many running backs we have in the top 100. Whereas a position like edge or a position like wide receiver, my assumption is this bot's going to draft those positions last. It's an assumption. We're going to have fun. We will figure that out. But I wanted to explain that. So we've done this. Hey, Anthony, your podcast, do you have any preference on the draft order?
No. I have no idea. I have no idea where I even would want to pick in this. So yeah,
okay.
however you want.
You're getting the first pick then.
Great.
So Anthony, Sam, Jim, 2 bots. Okay. And is it going to? Okay. So the bots are picking at the end of the round. Okay. So we are in the Draft a Team event. And if you haven't watched something like this before, what Anthony, Sam, and I are going to do is we are going to pick a team, a starting 11 offense and a starting 11 defense from the rookie pool. So that means we're each going to pick 22 players. The bots will pick 22, and we're going to cover a total of 110 players, and we're probably going to take about an hour and a half or 2 hours to cover the 110. Okay, Anthony, you're on the clock. And I know that you haven't necessarily done too many exercises like this before.
No.
Nope. Actually, I think a podcast like this is how I met you.
I don't remember doing a draft a team ever. I've seen it, but I mean, I
okay.
Whatever.
So maybe it wasn't. Yeah.
We're gonna go for it. I tried to compose some kind of strategy, and I'm gonna attack positions where I think the talent drop off might be the biggest. So
that's a really good strategy to use.
So with that in mind, it's going to crash and burn in my face. I'm sure I'll realize that. But for now, I think that's a great strategy. So with that in mind, my first pick is going to be Peter Woods, defensive tackle from Clemson.
That's where I was going to go if you didn't do it. That was my first move.
All right, that makes me feel good then. And I could give like a brief summary on Peter Woods for those who are not familiar. Peter Woods is a freak. He is 6'3", 315 pounds. Now, I called him a defensive tackle, and I think that's where he projects in the NFL. But you will see him line up all over the defensive line. He lines up at the traditional 3-tech spot. He also lines up on the edge, which sounds crazy for a 300-pound guy, but he's so athletic that he's able to make plays on the edge over the shoulder, as well as able to rush inside. He has strong, violent hands, a relentless motor. He is going to be a true difference maker for Clemson. We touched on this last night when we talked about Clemson, or when we talked about Cade Klubnik. But Clemson is expected to be a national title contender, and Peter Woods is, if everything goes as it should, I would say is pretty much guaranteed to be a top 10 pick in this upcoming class. So yeah, Peter Woods, one of the safest bets, I would say, if that exists in scouting. Dude is an animal. Not a lot of weaknesses in his game. It just checks all the boxes. So yeah, Peter Woods, I think, is going to be a good anchor to build this team around for me.
Okay, Sam, what do you think? Where are you going to go with your first pick?
Yeah, I'll take Trevor Gooseby, the offensive tackle from Texas here. There's a chance he doesn't come out this year. A chance he goes back for one more year with NIL. That's always more likely to happen now than it used to be. But just from watching his tape last year, he's already a better player, in my opinion, than Cameron Williams was last year. There's such a natural athlete, such a fluid player, great quickness and range and pass pro. Still a little bit, needing to bulk up a bit, so the run game impact's not necessarily what you want to, but he has good movement skills in the run game. He's a player, he's got limited tape, but just from watching, you can already tell this guy's like a first-round caliber player. He had excellent tape, I think, against Texas A&M. He had a good game. They bumped him over. He's played left and right tackle. I think he's more natural on the left side. But he's just a tremendous athlete, a very young player who's going to only continue to get better, get stronger as well. He has all the physical tools to be an elite pass protector. And while, again, there might be some limitations in the run game, I'm willing to accept that one. I think he's potentially the best pass protecting tackle in the draft if he declares.
Okay, so and I have to change that name there. Okay, so my first pick is going to be Spencer Fano, the offensive tackle from Utah. Okay, so the bot took Connor Lew, and then the bot took Jeremiah Love, and the bot took, okay, so where are we here? Okay, so one bot took Nijah Harris and Caleb Downs. The other bot took Connor Lew and Jeremiah Love. And then it's back to me. And I am going to go with Caleb Banks, the defensive tackle from Florida. And Sam, we are back to you.
All right, looking at the board now. I'm going to go ahead and take Caleb Lomu, the offensive tackle from Utah. Going to try to solidify my offensive line here early. It'll require some position shifting with him and Gooseby to be on the same team, but I'm comfortable with that. At this point, I just want to take talented offensive linemen. There's only so many starting caliber offensive tackles in every draft. Just got to find them and roll with it. So Lomu's a player, again, needs to add a little bit more weight to his game, but he's got maybe the best snatch trap of any tackle in the class. He's got tremendous hands, great aggressiveness as well. Really prototypical build, good length as well. The difference between him and Fano. Fano's a much more aggressive and better run blocker, but Fano's also much leaner with shorter arms. Lomu's got more prototypical build And I'm kind of building out here on the pass protecting skill set. See, and Loma's almost okay in the run game, but not great. But he's a really high level pass protector. I can only imagine where he's going to end up with one more year of experience, but he's a really high level player.
Okay. Anthony, to
All
you, and you have 2 picks back to back here.
Yeah, so I did not expect offensive tackle to just get eviscerated in the first round. But we'll make do because there are still some good tackles available. So I'm going to guarantee myself one of them, and I'm going to take Caden Proctor from Bama, who is pretty much the complete opposite of Caleb Blamu in that he does not need to gain weight; he needs to lose weight. He needs to. But he's such a freakish athlete for his size. He's gotten down to 359, which is still very big. But he moves well, I think, for that size. You put him in a phone booth with pretty much any defender, and he can just win with excellent power, excellent lower body strength, finishes really well. It really just does come down to, he's not going to be ideal in any kind of, outside zone scheme. He is going to be more of a gap scheme guy, but if that's where you take him and put him into, I have no doubt that he can be a star left tackle at the next level. And ideally, if he could lose some weight, I think he can get, better foot speed and better foot quickness and be even better than what he is now. But he just looks the part of a legit left tackle at the next level. Okay. So I've got Proctor and Woods. Do I go with another offensive tackle or do I just move
Where did
on?
Jim go? I don't see Jim on the stream anymore.
Did he fall off again? Oh my God. He did this last week where he fell off randomly, probably because he's getting another stupid Microsoft update. Or his internet. Oh, he texted me. His internet crapped out. All right. That's actually not bad because that gives me some time to think about where the fuck I go with this next pick.
Do you remember who Jim's second pick was?
He took welcome back.
Yeah, so that was an internet issue.
Fun.
So the cool thing is that this isn't on a timer. So I had the Caden Proctor pick for Anthony, and then I didn't hear if he made a second pick after that.
He's thinking it over still. He's good.
No, I'm thinking it over. We were trying to remember who your other pick was, but I see it was Caleb Banks. That was the other one. All right, I'm gonna get away from the offensive line. I'm actually gonna go with CJ Allen, the linebacker from Georgia. In part, I'm going with my strategy of I think linebacker is one of the thinner. I shouldn't say thinner. I think there's a talent gap between like the top linebackers, and then I think there is good depth, but I don't think it's particularly close with the top guys. I'm a huge CJ Allen fan. And he just feels like, and it is a bit of helmet scouting, I guess, but he just feels like Roquan Smith, like everything about him. He is one of the best processors, both pre and post snap. But then has that ability to just close in, has excellent range, can just make tackles very reliably. I think he's one of the most reliable tacklers at the linebacker spot in this class. Fights through blocks very well. For me, he just feels really clean as an overall linebacker prospect. I think he does have some work to do in coverage. That would be my main critique of him. But I think he, in terms of like downhill, keeping the play in front of you linebackers, I don't think there's anybody better than CJ Allen in this class. So give me CJ. We'll keep building this defense.
All right. Well, I'm going to hit my QB1. I'll take Cade Klubnik and just roll with it. I don't, honestly, I think to me, Cade's better than everyone else in this class, in my opinion. Like, Cade's my QB1, and it's by far the way it's set up. He doesn't have maybe the highest ceiling, but the highest floor. Like he's got the most level where you can almost guarantee a certain level of success with him. So I feel comfortable buying in there because of his touch, his accuracy, his playmaking ability, all that stuff. But if you want to expand it, like to me, it's him and Lenore Sellers. And if you don't get one of those two guys and you're buying into the Drew Aller, Garrett Nussmeier level of quarterbacks, or maybe even like an Aiden Childs or something like that, it's probably going to go back for another year. You might be in a bit of hot water for this thing. So I want to make sure I get one of the guys and don't risk it with the bots and Jim here kind of to snipe me down the stretch.
So this will become a snipe fest. I am going to go with cornerback Xavier Scott. And I want to give a shout out to Draft Professor Hank. Xavier Scott is the #1 graded player in his board. So one of the bots took Singleton and Ryan Baer. So clearly the bot decided there weren't enough guards in the top. And then the other bot took Jaden Ott and Kamari Ramsey. So Downs and Ramsey are already off the board. So it's back to me. I'm going with Dylan Thieneman, the safety from Oregon, because if the bots were deciding there was a talent cliff at safety, I don't want to be the last on the train. And we're back to Sam.
Yeah, safety is one of the positions where I'll be all right drafting the later rounds. I think there's some names on here on the board that I'm still comfortable with taking, so I'll let that slide for a little bit longer. Although I don't like the fact that this one bot's taking all my guards. You know, I was kind of hoping just to have like just beef up the line whenever I could. Looking at what's left, I mean, I think there's a cliff at this position as well. So I'm gonna go Jermod McCoy from Tennessee. I know he's dealing with the injury, obviously, but to me, this is the best, when healthy, the best cornerback prospect in this class. One of the true first round grades I have. I think I only have like a dozen or so right now. And I do grade pretty hard in the summer. But just looking at how the cornerbacks stack up, there's really only 3 guys or 4 guys I'm pretty interested in. And I know those guys can go quickly, so I want to make sure I get at least one of them here.
Okay, Anthony, back-to-back picks.
All right. Yeah. So, because basically now what's happened, at least for me on my board, is my top 2 corners are gone. My top 2 safeties are gone, and my Thieneman and Downs to me are like league of their own, and then it's kind of like everybody else. That's not to say like there are other good safeties. I just think they are separated. So now I'm trying to decide if it's worth not letting that even go longer. I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna go with I need a good corner. I'm gonna go. Give me DJ McKinney from Colorado. He has work to do in terms of his technique. I think his physicality lacks a little bit, but I think he's also arguably one of the top athletes at the position. I think you started to see the emergence of someone who can be a #1 corner in the NFL. You know, he's obviously getting coached up by Dion and the coaching staff that's done a really good job with obviously Travis Hunter. We've seen other guys like Preston Hodge start to emerge. But I think this is going to be his time to shine. I think he's really sticky in man. I think he is fluid in coverage. It really just does come down to a physicality issue. And I've seen him listed at 181 pounds. I'd like to see him maybe put on, at least get up to like 190 something, and get a little more physical and not get so just overwhelmed by bigger players. But there's tools there that I like him. I like him as a projection going into this season. All right, I guess it's still my pick, right? I get 2.
Correct.
Okay. Do I just double up on corner? Maybe I double up on corner. Yeah, I'm gonna double up on corner. Give me AJ Harris from Penn State. So AJ Harris, from Penn State. I think he's really active in press coverage, really active hands. I think he does a good job of developing routes, being able to recognize them, and then attack them. I don't love the ball skills. I think they need to improve. Also, Jeremiah Smith kind of just like cooked him when they played Ohio State. He can get caught in bad spots at times and lose track of receivers, but I like another one where I like the projection going into the year. I see the path for him becoming a number one, the number one corner for Penn State and really cementing himself as a top corner in the Big Ten. So yeah, I like that duo of McKinney and Harris, and I don't have to think about cornerbacks now.
All right, give me Keith Abney from Arizona State. He's not a player who I had originally ranked on my initial board, but I'm glad I got him eventually. He's a very sticky corner. Tips a little up and down this past year. I think you're trying to look to see if he can be more consistent week to week this coming season. But he is a very talented player in terms of true mirror level shutdown corner who can play out of press. He's got good enough speed to play press man and be active and be efficient. And if you go back and watch the Texas game this past year in the playoff and some of the games late in the season, you see he's really a high level corner. And getting to pair him with Jermon McCoy, these are two of my top four corners. And really, there's a pretty big drop off after my top four. So I'm just glad to get out of that cornerback market right now.
Yeah, so I'm going to dig deep. I'm going with guard Josh Thompson from LSU. I believe he's a transfer from Northwestern. We covered him on the LSU podcast, and I believe he has tackle guard flexibility. I think I was told LSU likes their tackles, so he's probably playing guard, but he has some tackle film at Northwestern. If I'm getting the player correct.
No, you are. I think he's taking some snaps at right tackle, though, for them this summer. So he's taking a little bit at right tackle, but there's clear projection in the NFL as a guard, in my opinion. But he's a good player. I like him. I think I have a 4th round mark on him, but I think he could be a real prove it type player if he gets snaps in the SEC.
Yeah.
He could rise pretty quickly.
Okay, so one of the bots took Caden McDonald and Avion Terrell. The other bot took Kerry Brown and Tao Johnson.
Okay, well, now I don't feel so good about the safeties available anymore.
Yeah, quickly.
Okay.
So who was this? So the one bot took Caden McDonald, and who was the other player he took?
Avion Terrell.
Okay.
Okay, so this is back to me. And from a corner standpoint, we covered him a lot last cycle. Domani Jackson from Alabama. I think some will have first-round grades on him, but I think some see him much further back, top 100-ish. But looking forward to hearing all about the corners on tomorrow's podcast. So, Sam, back to you.
Yeah, I feel like I've got a little bit more room to breathe with this pick now. I've gotten my corners done, and my tackles are done too. So I feel like I'm knocking out some good spots here. I mean, Keldrick Folk might be the best player on my board, overall. So I'm just going to go ahead and start the run edges here. I'll take Keldrick Folk and just lock up another one of my very few blue chip players in this class. I've gotten 4 out of the 12 I have. So I'm going to be overall very happy walking away from this, regardless of what happens the rest of the way.
Anthony, 2 picks back to back.
Okay. I have a couple options in my head. I haven't taken a safety yet, right? I've only taken corners.
That is a true statement. Yes, sir.
I took 2 corners now. Okay. All right. I have to get a safety at this point. And really the only one, I shouldn't say the only one, but the highest one on my board right now is Bray Hubbard from Alabama. So I'm going to take Bray Hubbard. Bray Hubbard is an interesting pick. He's former high school quarterback. Didn't really play much up until it was week 8 when Keon Sabb got hurt. He sort of got more snaps, more playing time, and really showed a lot of good things. Another guy that lined up all over the field. He has 100+ snaps in the slot, in the box, and as a true free safety. He is not afraid to lay out people. There's one hit on Nico Iamaleava where it looks like he almost killed him. You can probably find that clip online. But I think he's got a really good football IQ, kind of coming back from his quarterback experience. I think the main question is just how good of an athlete he actually is. He may sort of have to be relegated to kind of just being like either a split high safety or a box guy. But I like his mental game so much. I have faith in him, and especially in the limited amount of playing time that he had, the kind of impact he was able to have. So if he can build on that in a true starter role this year, I like what he could possibly become at the safety spot. Okay. All right. So at least I have one safety that I can feel good about, and then I can worry about the other one later. Do I follow Sam's edge trend? I think I do.
You should not.
All right.
You should pick a linebacker. You want to pick a linebacker.
You know what? As much as I would love to. You know what? I'm going to take, funny enough, it's taken this long, but I'm going to take my number one player on my board, and that's Ruben Bain, the edge from Miami. And look, he obviously had a down year. He, was not fully healthy with that calf injury, and we don't really know. We're kind of assuming that he's going to get back to the kind of just dominant player that he was as a true freshman in 2023. But if he does get back to that and also shows improvement and progression, I don't see a world where he's not a top 5 pick. I think he is just so dominant. His hands and his pass rush moves are just, as a freshman, they were so impressive to watch. And even though he wasn't 100% this past year, you still saw the flashes of a great player. He's just so naturally powerful. People question his frame. He's 6'3", 275. I've even heard people say like he could actually gain weight and then become more of an interior defensive player. But I think he again, assuming he can get back to the 2023 version, I think he has the explosiveness to play on the outside consistently, but then can also win on the inside. So he gives you that versatility on the defensive line. But yeah, if he's healthy, I am all aboard the Ruben Bain train for sure.
All right,
Okay.
So I guess I'm up. I'm going to go with Arizona State wide receiver Jordan Tyson. There were a couple places I could have gone here at wide receiver. I didn't want to wait and risk I think it's 5 picks after me, potentially snagging the top guys, because I do think there's a receiver cliff in this class. Like, there's some guys with a lot of potential, like Jacoby Lane from the USC, Nick Anderson if healthy. There's some guys who have some real potential to stand out and be these potentially borderline first-round caliber wide receivers. But you're betting on a lot of potential. I feel like guys like Jordan Tyson, to some extent, Cardinal Tate, are proven commodities, and there's not many of those guys within this draft class. So I want to go get Jordan Tyson, give K-Club like a true number 1 option to work with here, and then we can kind of fill out the rest of the wide receiver core if we have to in the later rounds.
So while Sam and Anthony were talking, I added TJ Guy. I'm not picking him here, but there's a chance he gets sniped. I am following Sam's lead. The run on wide receivers continues. I'm going Antonio Williams, wide receiver from Clemson.
Oh, Jim, I was going to take that guy 2 rounds from now and be like, that's my slot receiver.
Okay. So the bots did what they did. Okay, so one bot took Nussmeier
That's fine.
and Emmanuel McNeil-Warren.
Man, the safeties are just going.
The other bot took Anthony Hill Jr.
Christian Miller.
and Christian Miller, and I believe I have to change the spelling of that player in the database.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because that's an EN there, right?
Yeah, it's an EN.
Okay. So this is back to me.
So Jay, it was Garrett Nussmeier. Who was the other one the one bot took? Garrett Nussmeier and
Emmanuel McNeil-Warren.
oh man, dang, the safeties are really gone. I
Yeah.
wasn't counting on
You know something? And if the bots are sniping you, there's a reason that you use them. Right? So to give, if this is your first, if you're watching this and this is your first time seeing this, so you notice, like, I think 3 of us haven't drafted a quarterback yet. It's probably because with 5 teams, there's more than 5 quarterbacks that we like. So that's why we didn't necessarily, not all of us picked those players first, right? So what we're essentially trying to do between Anthony, Sam, and I is we're essentially trying to think of what positions, like, are there 10 guards that we like? Or are there 5 running backs that we like? And if there aren't 5 running backs, which one do I want? And that's Jonah Coleman from Washington for me. It is my turn to pick, right? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going Jonah Coleman, running back. And we are back to same.
All right. Well, I don't get the slot receiver I wanted initially, but I can potentially still go out and get one. I'm going to go get Mekhi Lemon, top 5 wide receiver from in the class. He's undersized. Doesn't have a great catch radius and all, but at the same time, he's got good speed. He can press you vertically. He's a very clean and efficient route runner, a very natural separator. Not going to be the most explosive player out there per se, but in terms of just getting someone who's consistently open, can be a consistent contributor, and can be a wide receiver 2 for you. Behind a guy like Jordan Tyson, he fits that bill. And now I kind of have a little bit of outside-inside opportunities here with wide receivers.
Anthony, 2 picks back-to-back.
Yeah, so Mekhi Lemon was definitely going to be one of those picks. So I have to pivot. All right, you know what? I'm going to take Lenora Sellers. And Lenora Sellers, I mean, we talked about Lenora Sellers last night. Go check out the quarterback podcast if you haven't already. In terms of size, speed, and athleticism at the quarterback position, there's nobody on his level, period, in this class, and potentially in college football right now. He is just such a special talent. There are absolutely things he needs to work on. Holds the ball too long, takes too many sacks, decision-making in the pocket can be a question mark. But if you're betting on a player where you can see him, you could see him join the Mahomes, Allen, Lamar Jackson echelon of just elite talents at the quarterback position. You see that trajectory with Lenora Sellers. So I'm going to take him here and just not think about quarterback anymore. What do I do with the second pick? You know what? And I'm going to double down. I'm going to just make this defensive line just so freaking awesome. Give me TJ Parker. So I talked about Clemson already. I talked about how Peter Woods is going to be an impact player for this defense. TJ Parker is going to be the other big reason why this Clemson, if this Clemson defensive line plays to where it should, TJ Parker is going to be a huge part of that as well. He's such a strong player. He's 6'3", 265, but he generates so much power both in his hands and in his lower body. I think he showed really good pass rush moves. There's one really good rip move sack that he has against Anthony Belton, who was taken. He went second round, right, to the Packers. He can be a weapon on stunt plays and slants. he uses his hands to disengage from blockers really well. I think you are going to wonder if he doesn't have that elite, that elite athleticism. I don't think he has an elite first step. But in this day and age where a lot of the best edge players in the NFL are power guys that use their hands, you think of Jared Verse being the most recent example of guys who, they didn't have this elite athleticism, but he's just so dynamic with his pass rush moves that it doesn't even matter. So that is kind of the mold TJ Parker, I think, fits, that Jared Verse just power hands type of rusher. So defensive line, I feel pretty good about now.
Well, you want to talk about power rushers? Give me LT Overton from Alabama. Doesn't have the best bend in the world, but he's got better bend than he's given credit for. Needs to work on being more technical with his hand usage, I would say. But in terms of setting the edge, block deconstruction, being a high-level run defender, and being able to compress interior run lanes, he does that at a high level. And you've seen some improvements for the hand usage from being able to win off the edge. He can counter on the inside. You can line him up, reduce inside a little bit if you want to. And I don't have any interior defensive line drafted yet, so I'm going to really relying on him and Keldrick Folk to be able to both rush the passer and play a bit of run defense to help me out there. So I like beefing up the outside, and we'll fix the interior here with some bigger bodies and rotational players here in the next couple of rounds.
Okay, so I'm on the clock. I want to point out a couple things I did. So when TJ Parker and LT Overton were picked, right? So there's 3 defensive line spots and 1 defensive flex that lets you put an edge in. So if you just pick, so Sam and Anthony picked an edge and it put them in that top defensive line spot. So on the graphic, which gets generated, this defensive line spot lines up against an offensive tackle, and this flex spot lines up against an offensive tackle. So I move them down here so the picture at the end looks a little bit better. And I'll show you what that means when we finish. Okay, so that being said, this is me. I do agree, based upon everything I'm hearing, about a talent cliff at wide receiver. And who have we talked about? I'm going to go Chris Bell from Louisville as my other wide receiver, as my second wide receiver. And then the bots are up. Okay, so the bots took Marcus Deal and Tim Keenan. James Smith and Drew Alar. And now it's back to me. And my QB got sniped because I was hoping to take Alar. So, okay. At tight end, I'm going to go Max Clare from Ohio State. And we are to Saint.
Yeah, I was thinking about Claire. To me, he's the clear top tight end in this class, so I was considering him at one point. Let's see. The interior of this defensive line group is starting to get a really bit concerning here. I wasn't expecting the bots to pick up 3 of them in short succession like that. So this does change my strategy a little bit. I was really thinking I should get at least Tim Keenan out of that. Not so lucky, apparently.
And to me, that is the, let's say, the joy or the art of the exercise, right? Because realistically, not that many people really know the board on the simulator, right? Because it's just using whatever that default board was. And one of them's looking at the next 20 best players. So if you look here, like the bot that is looking at 22, it would basically be looking at R. Mason Thomas and higher for what is the position cliff. The other one is looking at the at the next 99 available players and trying to find the position that has the lowest quantity. Right. So essentially it's just going through like counting the number of safeties, counting the number of edges, counting the number of quarterbacks, and whichever number is lower is the position that it drafts.
Gotcha. I think I'm going to go with Albert Regis from Texas A&M. You know, Regis is kind of built lower to the ground. He's not as dense as like a nose tackle per se, so I'll probably have to go get one of those guys later. But Regis does provide you with some ability to kind of penetrate and slip inside and be a interior pass rusher, but he's also primarily a run defender, which is what I need here. I've got my two edges. I need someone who can kind of clog the interior. He does that at a very high level. And I think it was maybe I want to say the Texas game, I want to say he had a really good outing. But he's just a very, he's been a little inconsistent at times, but in terms of projecting development forward, I feel really good with Regis here on the interior, and I'll probably add some extra help in the form of a nose tackle later on.
Okay. Anthony, you're up for 2 picks.
All right. I've decided that I'm going to double up on a position. I'm trying to decide what position that's going to be. I think because I'm trying to figure out what the bot's going to do now. That's basically what this game is.
I think the bot's going to take running backs. You should double up on running backs.
Yeah. I do have one. I have like one running back that's notably higher than every other running back that's available at this point. But I'm actually going to attack the wide receiver spot. So give me Denzel Boston and give me Bryce Lance. And funny enough, they're actually pretty similar players. Both of these are big X receivers that I think can win with not just their size, but also with their athleticism. With Boston, I think he's a better route runner. There's one route that he runs against Michigan where it's basically like a pump and go route kind of thing. But he absolutely torches Jair Hill, who is potentially somebody that gets picked later in this exercise. But Boston is such a good route runner for somebody his size. He was even making plays as a freshman behind guys like Rome Odunze and Jalen Polk and Jalen McMillan when all those guys were there. He was still an impact, and now he's really become the wide receiver one for Washington. So I'd expect him to have another big year. And Bryce Lance, I mean, if you've seen me on this channel, you've probably heard me talk about him already, or on my X at some point. But I just think he's so dynamic for a guy his size. He's 6'3", 208. But he's so athletic. Some of the catches he makes, I think, are just so impressive. I think his body control and his hands particularly are really impressive. Does need development in terms of his route tree. I think his releases are good, but could use some work as well. But he just does so many good things already, and was so dominant in the biggest games of the season for North Dakota State last year. If he's able to replicate last year's production now with new quarterback, not as strong an offense, I would say, as they had last year, but North Dakota State always finds a way to just reload and still be great. But Bryce Lance to me is a really undoubtedly the best talent in the FCS. And somebody that I have a first round grade. I know that's higher than pretty much everybody else on the planet, but I'm a big believer in Bryce Lance.
Okay. Sam.
Yeah, I'm looking at getting another wide receiver here and kind of finish up there. I know we got one flex for wide receivers. I don't value tight ends as much as most people, so I'm just going to kind of bypass and sit in that position, just load up a pass catcher elsewhere. It's just a question of the top 3 guys on the board to me, because I've got my slot receiver, so I don't need to go out and get another smaller player. And there's quite a few slots in this class, so I don't want to touch any of them right now. Looking through it, the player who I think has the most to most proven ability is probably Carnell Tate. I think Nick Anderson might have a higher ceiling, but he's dealt with a lot of injuries in his career. Jacoby Lane just doesn't separate at a very high level, frankly. He's a great contested catch receiver, but just doesn't separate consistently. And I feel like I tend to lean more towards separation ability. So I'm going to take Carnell Tate here to be my third wide receiver.
Okay, so this is to me. And I am going to go with defensive lineman from Texas, Cole Brevard. So I have both of my interior defenders. The bots are doing their thing. So one bot took Jacoby Lane and Jalen Kilgore. The other bot took Zane Durant and Daryl Jackson Jr.
Man, defensive tackle is just getting eviscerated.
Okay, so I need linebacker edge. Okay, so I'm going to go linebacker. Let's see what that looks like. Going Sonny Styles from Ohio State.
That's a good pick, too.
And Sam, we are back to you.
I was going to wait to sit on Styles. And all the stuff I ran previously, Styles is always available late. So I was like, I'm just going to sit on that one. I'll just take him later, get the great athlete at linebacker. But apparently not. Looking here. All right. I think I'm going to attack one of my defensive flex positions here just to get me out of that group as well. Most of the cornerback room is kind of picked over at this point. There's some guys who have some potential, but I think they're more like non-top 100 players, not immediate impact guys. So I'll leave them alone for now. And I'm just going to go get David Bailey, who's currently playing Texas Tech, transfer from Stanford. Super explosive edge rusher. Now, I consider like R. Mason Thomas as well and Anto Saka. Saka's a little bit unproven because he just hasn't. He'd been injured down the stretch last year, hasn't played a ton of snaps. R. Mason Thomas had injury issues in 2023 and just has like really short arms, really undersized player. Bailey a little undersized, but extremely explosive, good arm length overall. And we want to have him be like a change of pace rusher on this team. When you've got guys like Keldrick Falk, who doesn't have a lot of bend, LT Overton's got a little more bend than Falk, but maybe not a lot overall. And you get someone like David Bailey in there to be a really different style of pass rusher for you. Would be a huge help in rounding out the defense.
Okay, Anthony.
All right. I'm going to do my double up strategy again. But this time I'm actually going to go to the guard position because I think that's going to wash up quick. So give me, I'm going to take Fernando Carmona, and I'm going to take Armaj Reed Adams. Carmona is, so he played left tackle at Arkansas this past year after transferring from San Jose State the year prior. This year he is going to play inside, which I think is best for him. I think he has a really solid base. He has great length and a frame. He's 6'5", 325. I think he does a great job of driving defenders backwards and also being able to win at the second level. The biggest issues, when you watched him play tackle, were just his lateral quickness was a mess. His overall foot speed was a mess. He lunged a lot. But these are all things that I think will be at least mitigated somewhat by moving inside. So this is someone who I think as a guard could be a potential, top 100 player. I would even maybe say like top 75. So I'm a big Carmona fan. And then for Armaj, people have him like as the top guard in this class, or at least like in the top 2 or 3. I'm not quite there, but I see the great athleticism that he has for his size. He's 6'5", 340, but I think he moves for that size pretty well. he can just be an absolute wrecking ball. As again at 6'5", 340, he can just be overwhelmingly powerful. Big issues were he had 11 penalties this past year. He loses his balance way too easily, I think. His mirroring is not great. So it is a lot of just questions about also like lateral quickness as well. But as a true, downhill blocker, I think he can be a really solid guard at the next level.
I'm very lucky. Of the 5 guards taken, I only have top 100 grades on 2 of them. So I'm lucking out in the guard spot. I'm not going to push my luck. I'm going to take Ben Morawski from UConn at guard. He's had a history of season-ending injuries, so if you have like medical concerns about him, he's certainly going to be a player to avoid if you don't like the medical concerns. So I'm willing to take the risk because he's just a elite-level athlete. All the feedback I've heard from the school and from him when he attended OL Masterminds, it's all been very positive. The guy's got a massive frame, but he's just like really bendy, really athletic, very loose player for his size. Great range, explosive overall athlete, good arm length as well, power, good aggression. I think he's still also better in pass pro than he is in the run game. Doesn't have a ton of snaps in his career, doesn't have a ton of experience, but I think he can develop quickly because he doesn't have that much experience once he gets more time in game. And I look at him as being the best offensive line prospect, in my opinion, in UConn the past couple of years. That's saying because they've had guys drafted the past couple of seasons. But to me, Morawski has the chance to be the best one of the group. And I'm just loading up on really good overall athletes on my offensive line.
Okay, so I'm up. And my next pick is going to be linebacker Michael Harris from Maryland. And that means that I have both of my linebackers. The bots are doing their thing. The bots took Mansour Delane. I got sniped on that one. Well, I think I had both corners, though. And who else did this bot take that was new? Nick Anderson, it looks like. So Nick Anderson and Mansour Delane. And then
Greg Johnson and John Michael Gillenborg, it looks like.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so then this is back to me. Okay, so if while Sam and Anthony were talking, there's an add player button up here. You need special permissions to get that button. Not everybody will have it, but that was my way of making sure when I was designing this that I could quickly add players that weren't there. So when we did the Baylor podcast, lots of good things were being said about Omar Egbedian, and that is going to be my pick. So just outside the top 100 was the general consensus, like he's a day 3 guard. But if you want a people mover, he was described by EJ specifically as a people mover. So, Sam, you are back up.
Yeah, looking at the board now. There's still a lot of guards in this class that I like. This is actually a really good guard class, in my opinion, so I'm not going to go there just yet. I'm going to look at tight end. No. This is tough because there's a lot of even places here that I could go in a couple different directions. I'm gonna go get Chandler Rivers to be one of my flexes on defense. He'll be my slot corner. He's the cornerback from Duke. They play him on the outside, but he's a super aggressive player. He's just very undersized, and I don't know that he's a high-level athlete. I would say he's a capable athlete, but he's not going to run the passes, he's not going to jump the highest level kind of stuff. But having him as a nickel, I like that because he's willing to stick his nose in the run game. He's going to be aggressive. He's going to play downhill. He's going to challenge stock blocks. He's going to have the instincts to make plays near the line of scrimmage. So I'm just willing to buy into a player with that kind of mentality. I'm a Steelers fan, so I get to see Mike Helton do it for years, which is fantastic, and I really miss him. But I think that Chandler Rivers can play a little bit of that role for your defense and bring some attitude for you in the slot.
Anthony, 2 picks back to back.
All right. One of these picks is going to be running back Mekhi Hughes. He is, so for me, and I know this is one of my hot takes. For me, Mekhi Hughes and Nick Singleton are the top 2 running backs in this class. With Mekhi, I think it's just he shows. I love his first step and then his ability to have a second gear as a runner. He's got solid ball security. He's got solid ability to break tackles and contact balance. He's not the most sudden and purely elusive player, but it gives me like Bucky Irving vibes of, even though he's not an elite athlete, he's still able to find space and attack it well. And now, going from a Tulane offense to the Oregon offense, I'm hoping that means that he's going to still be able to produce at a high level against even better competition. And if he does that, I don't think first round is out of the question. It would probably be like late first round if that happens. But I like Mekhi Hughes a lot. My other pick. What do I need on defense? I still need defensive line picks. I still
Interior,
need
safety,
and then some flexes.
Yes.
All right. I'm gonna go back. Do I go edge? Who do I have that hasn't been taken at the edge spot yet?
So there's definitely some good edges left. Mateo Ugalele.
Yeah, I like him.
Nathan Thomas, Max. Yep. Is it
Llewellyn? Llewellyn, yeah.
Llewellyn, is that how you said that?
Llewellyn.
Yeah.
Kamara,
Sapp.
I'm gonna go with an edge. I'm gonna take another guy that I'm higher on than most people, but I'm just such a believer in if he's healthy. And I think you have him in the simulator. Anthony Lucas from USC. Last year he was hurt. What was his injury? Hold on, I gotta look it up. He had a season-ending leg injury against Penn State. But prior to that, he was easily the best player on the USC defensive line. He plays with such a violent aggression in the best possible way. There is one play where Garrett Dellinger in the LSU game, Garrett Dellinger is coming on a pull block, and Anthony Lucas is coming off the edge unblocked and just absolutely runs him over like a truck and just knocks him down. He plays with that physicality on all of his snaps, both as a pass rusher and a run defender. I think he has strong chops and swipes. He has great frame and length. He's 6'5", 274. But is athletic enough to where, you even see him like drop back in coverage sometimes. So he's got everything from a physical standpoint. Obviously health is a question, coming back from the leg injury. Also, you want to see more. He was able to create pressure well, but he didn't always get home. He didn't have any sacks in those first 8 weeks. So you obviously want to see sack production this year from him. But he, I think, has that ability to wreak havoc and is one of those guys that a defensive line coach in the NFL is going to see him, I think, and just be enamored with the traits and believe that they can create something special with him. So Anthony Lucas, I think is a guy to watch this year as a potential, a guy that not a lot of people have him on their radar, but has all the tools to emerge as a top draft pick.
Anthony, the nice thing
Yes.
about picking next to you is our boards are very, very different, so you don't actually take my guys very often. We kind of
I'm glad that worked out.
yeah. I'm more worried about Jim on my other side over here potentially taking some of my guys, but I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna round out part of my defensive backfield. I'm gonna go ahead and take Dalen Everett from Georgia, the cornerback. Dalen Everett's not a day 2 guy for me. I think he's more of a day 3 player, but he's a very consistent guy, I'll say. And at this point, looking at the cornerback board overall, you're just looking to get some consistency. Cornerback is a very volatile position in the NFL. And obviously you got McCoy coming off an injury. But with him, Keith Abney, having Chandler Rivers in the slot, and then Dalen Everett as a third corner, potentially as a rotational guy, I think that's a really strong secondary. And I don't want to be left with one of the guys who's kind of remaining on the board. There's a couple of decent corners left, but I don't want to get stuck taking the last one of them, if that makes sense.
Okay, so I am going to be the second person to take a center. I'm going to take Iapani Lululu from Oregon as my center. And then the bots are going to do their thing. So the bots. Eric Singleton. And Centarian Perkins. I think Vega Ione was a recent pick, and Christian Gray went as well.
Yep.
Okay, so it's back to me. I have one offensive line spot left, so let's look at the tackle board. Caleb Tiernan from Northwestern. And Sam, we're back to you.
Let's see.
Guard, center, tight end, running back, linebacker, 2 safeties.
Yeah. I think he's not going to be in this class anyway, so I won't take him. But I think Charles Jack, you saw was going to play guard for Notre Dame this year, would have been will be a really good player. But of course, he got injuries, multiple stuff like that. Probably won't even be in this draft, so I'm going to pass him. I'm going to go ahead and take Mikhail Boley. I think Boley he's playing tackle right now for Virginia, but he's a really good overall athlete. He's just a very clean mover. But he's got, I think, some length concerns. And while he moves well, he doesn't have necessarily tackle-sized range. So I think there's some negatives there. He's got a snatch trap. He's got some developmental aspects of him that I really like. I think building off him, maybe adding some more weight, getting a little bit more technically developed. I think you're getting a really good potential pass protector with some good movement skills in the run game. And so now we've got 2 guards who can move, can do a lot for you in the run game versatility-wise, and are just really good athletes and good pass protectors.
You know something, because I had looked at your board, I just should have looked at the top of the guard list. I was looking for which player did he just say? And it was the guard that was sitting right at the top. Anthony.
Okay. I have 2 corner spots left, or one might be a flex, but
You got both flex spots left for corners.
I need both. Yeah, okay.
So you have, let me explain. So you have a safety open.
Yep.
You have the player that's going to be over the slot receiver open. So whether that's a corner or a safety. And then who's ever opposite the tight end is this one. More than likely it's a linebacker, but if you picked a corner or a safety, it would look like a 4-1-6.
Okay. All right. I'm going to take because I don't want I agree with Sam that tight end's not super high priority because I don't think the class is overall that great. But at the same time, I don't know if I want to be the 5th person taking a tight end. All right. One of these picks, I'm going to take D'Angelo Pons. the corner from Indiana, and he can be my slot corner. And normally I hate corners that are that small. He's 5'9", 170. But I think he just plays with such exceptional technique and exceptional fluidity that you just kind of have to, you have to see what he brings. He plays so well for Indiana. Curt Cignetti just does such a hell of a job coaching these guys up. The size and length are going to be very alarming. And what he can do in run support is going to be a huge concern, to say the least. But I just think he's so solid in coverage that he warrants a decent draft pick. All right. And I think I am going to go tight end. The only ones that were taken were Claire and Gillenborg. I'm going to take Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon. He's another one where if we're just saying who has the highest potential of the tight ends, I think it's Sadiq. He's fast. He's a solid athlete. I think he has a good solid hands. He's 6'3", 245, so the frame is decent enough. You kind of just need to see him in that tight end one role. He was behind Terrence Ferguson this past year. He had opportunities, but they were very limited. I think he's unproven as a contested catch guy. So I kind of want to see him do that. His run blocking isn't great right now. And I don't really know how high that ceiling is because he is only 245 pounds. But in terms of athleticism and physical traits, he's probably, it's him and Claire probably are the top two. So yeah, give me Sadiq and we'll figure out what to do with the rest of this defense. Sam, I hope I didn't snipe you again.
No, you didn't. I'm like, at this point, we've hit the range where there's just not a lot of players I'm worried about losing, to be honest with you. Yeah. Like Sadiq's the player where I don't like, you can take him. I don't care. It doesn't impact me at all. Like take any of the running backs, doesn't matter to me. Like any of the running backs, any tight ends, I don't care. So I'm at a point where it's kind of moot. Like the rest of the way, I'm going to be on cruise control for the most part. I feel pretty good. There's one position I don't want to lose out on a player. I'm going to take Jake Slaughter here at center. I am not a huge fan of the center class overall. I know some people really like it. To me, it's a 2 center class, and both those guys are already gone. So ordinarily I wouldn't care, but I think there is a bit of a drop-off to be had here. Like I don't want to take Parker Brace, which is incredibly undersized. Logan Jones doesn't have great anchor. Bryce Foster's got very high hips and kind of a weird build overall. Connor Tolson coming back off of an injury. I just don't want to take any of those guys if I can avoid it. Jake Slaughter is maybe like very consistent, very day 3-ish in my opinion, but I'll take just a very consistent player who's got some name brand potential. And, I think that he's the worst offensive lineman I took, but at the same time, it's fine. Like the worst player is my line's my center. It's a very weak center class anyways. So I'm okay with this.
Okay, so I am up. And I was just scrolling to see which positions, for example, I'm the only one that doesn't have a quarterback, which pretty much means whatever quarterbacks are here now will also be available at the last pick. So I'm not worried about getting sniped at this point. But I do want to finish out my safety board and I want to give a shout out. I think Randall Slifer shouted out, was it Miles Scott? Yep. Miles Scott will be my other safety from Illinois. So shout out to Randall because he didn't like the safety I picked in my last drafted team. Okay. So the bots.
Isaiah World.
Isaiah World.
That's great to get him this late. Like, I don't know how you walk into that.
Honestly, yeah, that's great value.
And
And
Whit Weeks.
Weeks, another good value at this point.
Malik Muhammad. I don't know if that was a new one. Deontay Lawson just went.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are the two.
Yep. Okay, and we are back to me. Okay, so let's finish out my offense. I need a slot wide receiver. Deion Burks is intriguing. I want to see if he recovers from an injury. Zachariah Branch, slot wide receiver from Georgia.
All right, I'm up.
Okay. Yes, this is Sam.
I was expecting not all those linebackers to go off the board the way they did there. I didn't think that the bot would take a. So linebacker room's a little bit decimated here. I only really need one based on how I built my team out, so that's fine. I mean, the best option to me is Raylan Wilson at Georgia still. He's a good overall athlete. I think there's some still rawness to his game, but I'm willing to kind of build that out. We've got some size on the edges and a little bit on the interior to help protect him, kind of keep him clean at the second level. To me, he's a bit more – he's not going to overcommit as much as like Torian York. Torian York's probably a better athlete, but he's just way too overcommittal to plays. Leonard Barton's a bit heavier, doesn't move quite as well. Drake Bowen's just a downhill run defender, and Austin Romain's still very much developing his instincts. So I think Raylan Wilson's probably the best mix of overall potential and talent of the remaining linebackers.
Okay, right. Anthony, 2 picks back to back.
Yeah. Do I just finish the offensive line, or do I grab a flex? Yeah, at this point, the center class is kind of – I'm not too married to one of them right now. So I'll skip that for now. I'm going to grab my other tackle, I think. And I'm going to take – I don't think he's been taken – Austin Barber from Florida. Yeah, there he is. I think Barber – I think he shows really good feet and good hands. Overall, a good athlete. Can get out in space and finish blocks out there. Big issues with him. I think he doesn't have a lot of power, particularly in his lower half. Also, he had 9 penalties this past season. He can get beat on the outside at times. I think it's more of a technique thing with him. But he's another one where I see the world where he can develop into a high-end tackle prospect. I'm probably higher on him than most people, but I do think he still has a ways to go before he gets there. But we'll see how, Florida should be good this year. And that Florida offensive line in general is very talented. So if he doesn't play well, he's going to stick out like a sore thumb. But I like what tools he has to build around.
Okay, and Anthony, you are up for your second.
Yeah, I have another one. All right, I'm not going to do center. So I need another. What do I need? Another safety.
So you need
and a defensive.
You need a safety. You need whoever you're going to put across from the tight end.
Right.
And then you need a slot offensive player.
Yeah. Wow. The linebackers did get wiped. All right. You know what? I'm going to take, and I'll shout out Bill when I do this because I think he has him as linebacker too. I'm going to take Drake Bowen from Notre Dame. Drake Bowen, I think he has really good play strength. He's very solid when it comes to identifying gaps in the run game and then being able to fill them and shut down run plays. He's a good tackler. Hell of a motor too. Question marks with him, I think, are just his coverage isn't great. Doesn't feel very natural in terms of like changing directions and being a fluid athlete in general. But another guy where, downhill plays in front of him can be a very reliable run defender in the NFL. You do just want to see him add more as a cover guy if he's going to be a true, 3-down starting linebacker in the NFL. But I like the player and I like the person too. So give me Bowen.
Okay. Sam.
Yeah, I think I probably gotta go safety here. Looking through the available names, it's not gonna make a huge difference to me, I don't think, at this point. I'm gonna go with Isaiah Nakobia from SMU. He's not a guy who's gonna be thriving at depth, but he's a player who's very physical. I think he's got better closing bursts and maybe a little bit better athleticism than people expect. I think he's got better hips than people say. And if you're looking for a guy who can contribute in run defenses, willing to come downhill, run the alley, lay a big hit, this is the guy for you. So maybe what I get in terms of coverage capability and having all these corners out there, I might lose in having guys more of a box kind of safety, but I'm willing to make that trade-off here considering that I already have a lot of coverage capability.
Okay, so I am up, and I need a slot corner. And we covered him last year. I haven't heard too many people talking about Isaiah Reed from UCF. So he played at Brown last year, transferred to UCF. Bill and Randall had an early day 3 grade on him when we did scouting reports last year. So very athletic corner. Looking forward to hearing more about Isaiah Reed this draft cycle. Okay, so the Bots took Jack Andrews from Texas is the tight end. Francis Maligoa went as an offensive tackle. Deion Burks and Evan Stewart just got taken. And then it's back to me. So now I need to get one of my edges. So I definitely want to give a shout out here to Owen. So TJ Guy, the edge from Michigan. That's a player that Owen really liked when he covered the Michigan podcast. And there's a small draft professor cult on TJ Guy. There's definitely, I know Randall and Andy, when they watch Michigan, they like Guy more than Moore. So Sam, you are up.
All right. Let's see. Not a lot left to do here. I'm just going to go ahead and grab another safety. To me, it's really between Keon Sabb and Bud Clark. Guys have a little bit more coverage capability. Guys you can want to play in space a little bit more than what I currently have. Sabb kind of coming off a down year, but Bud Clark coming off a really good year. I'm going to lean towards Keon Sabb, though. I think Sabb, at one point, there was maybe some day 2 hype for him. Feels like it's a lot more just pure midday 3 kind of stuff right now. But even so, like with the rest of the talent I have in the secondary, I feel comfortable with that.
All right. Over to me now. You know what? I need a safety. I'll take Bud Clark. I think, Sam touched on it. I think he's one of the best cover safeties that we're going to see in this class. He does a great job of tracking the ball in the air. He had 11 career interceptions for TCU. Also plays all over the field. It really is a question of, run support ability. A smaller frame in general. He's only listed at 189 pounds. So, that, but if you're playing him as a true cover guy, whether that be as a split high safety or a single high safety, I think he fits that role very well. And I think him and Hubbard is a good combination to have. Yeah, I'm going to save center. I need a flex guy. Who is left at any of these positions? It's not going to be
Eugene Wilson and J. Michael Sturdivant are names that I hear a lot. Now, whether or not you would put those guys at slot wide receiver, I think what I heard is that you could put either of those guys at slot.
Yeah, probably Eugene more than Sturdivant. But yeah, because I have two receivers that are X receivers, so I need a quick kind of
Aaron
separator.
Anderson is available.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Give me he should be on there somewhere. Give me Eric Rivers. Transfer over from FIU. Now he's at Georgia Tech. He's the definition of, probably a slot guy in the NFL. He's only 175 pounds, 5'11". But I think he is a very sharp, crisp route runner, can be super dynamic when he has the ball in his hands. Probably, I would say, at least like 4.3 speed. He is undersized. He fits here. I think like having two receivers that are big contested catch guys and then having like that true separator guy will work for me. So yeah, give me Eric Rivers here.
Okay. So Sam needs a running back or a tight end.
Yeah, I'm going to be looking at tight end here. Unfortunately, not a lot of these guys can actually block. I know Stoffel can block. He's transferred from South Dakota State to Illinois, but he might not even get starting reps this year because Illinois' depth chart's pretty loaded at tight end. Eli Raritan can block in Notre Dame, but I don't know how much running he's going to get in terms of actually catching the ball. So I'm going to lean towards Lawson Lucky here. Of the two guys, at Georgia, I actually like Delp more, but Delp has some drop issues. Lucky's a little bit more consistent, and he's a really good overall athlete. Again, can't really leave him in line to block very much, but in terms of having just a guy who can get open, be a security blanket, and maybe give you an explosive play here or there, I think Lawson Lucky checks that box.
Okay, so while we are close to the end of the exercise, I think everybody has either one or two picks left. I'm looking at the top of the edge board like, yes. So I still need a second edge. And the top edge available is who I'm taking, Mateo Ugalele from Oregon. But Saka is still here, R. Mason Thomas, Llewellyn, Howell, Kamara, Sapp. There's definitely some good edges that are top 100 players, I think, that are still available. Okay, so the bots just went. Both bots should be completely full now. So I'm looking here to see if
looks
we can
like
figure out
Parker Brailsford.
Yeah, Brailsford.
Yep. And then Rod Moore.
Yep.
And then PJ Williams, Jude Bowery.
Yeah.
Okay, and I believe the only player I have still to take is quarterback. Okay, so Fernando Mendoza of Indiana, welcome to the team. So I was thinking like between Mendoza, Sawyer Robertson, definitely going Mendoza here, but I would have been comfortable taking Sawyer Robertson if I had to. So, okay, Sam, running back.
Yeah, there's a lot of decent options left here on the board. I'm going to go with Contravion Wisner from Texas. CJ Baxter might actually be the better running back at Texas, but I think that Wisner, obviously, we got to see him last year. Baxter's been hurt. And so Baxter might come back and be the better Texas running back overall, but we know for a fact what Wisner is, and I think he's got the good combination of explosiveness, running capabilities to be a quality player. There's other guys on this list who are very good, but they're just not as explosive. And that wide center has maybe not elite home run ability, but just good enough to qualify for what I'm looking for.
Yeah, this is pretty easy for me. I'm going to take Logan Jones from Iowa. Logan Jones is a hell of an athlete. He is undersized. He's only 6'3", 293. Doesn't have elite length as well. And I think his play strength is kind of just like average at best. But I do think he can generate some power in his lower half. He also does well getting to the second level. Again, I think he's a really good mover at the center spot. You are kind of just – he's one of these guys I think ought to add some weight, but then, does he have the frame to do that enough? That's probably a question. But if he could get up to – I think he could get up to 300, and help himself a bit. But this is somebody, I believe he was on Feldman's freak list a year ago. So give me Logan Jones. I think he's that center at this point.
Okay, so I'm looking through the graphics here, and when I was moving players around, so for example, TJ Parker, if you notice, as an edge, he's on the boundary of the formation. Same thing with Ruben Bain. So you have to know it's the third defensive lineman in the order that lines up here, and then the first two are the ones that line up on the inside. So that's kind of how that works there. Same thing. I made sure that Bailey was outside and Overton got kicked in when Sam was making his picks, just by moving as to which actual field that they were in. This is the flex. So Dalen Everett is the flex that went over the tight end, right? So that's how that worked here. So if I see this right, is this Sam, do you only have one linebacker?
Yeah, just one linebacker.
Yeah, so I was about to say that didn't look right, but yeah, okay, if you only drafted one linebacker, then that's the way it looks.
I got my box safety. I got Isaiah back there from SMU. He's got some size to him. He's willing to come down and scrap.
Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so if you look, this is Sam's graphic on the right. This is Anthony's on the left. So this was a flex spot, and this is a flex spot. Sam chose to put a corner. Anthony chose to put a linebacker, but it's the spot opposite the tight end. But if you were to look at the exercise we just did, they were in the same spot right next to each other. Kind of thing. So if you're new to doing a drafted team, the reason we do this is it lets everybody kind of start to talk about their my guys. Every single player Sam took, he liked. Every single player Anthony took, he liked, etc. So I have a question for you, Anthony. Who in your top 100 didn't get taken?
That's a good question. Yeah, probably. I've
got a couple names I can throw out here.
I don't think Dominique Orange got taken. Yeah, I know Dominique Orange didn't get taken, right? The D tackle. So he's top 15 for me, which I know is higher than most people. Kenyatta Jackson didn't get taken. He's an edge at Ohio State. Did Keldrick Falk not get taken?
He did.
Or did a bot take him?
One of the bots took him.
Okay. All right, good. Okay, I was about to.
Maybe it was actually it was Sam.
Yeah. He's fine.
Okay. All right. Good. Jontez Williams, I don't think got taken from Iowa State.
That's corner, correct?
Yep, the corner from Iowa, which I think Brian has in his top 5. Spoiler for tomorrow's cornerback episode. But But who else here? Kyle Lewis, linebacker from Pitt, didn't get taken. He's also in my top 50. Undersized, but I think he is an absolute dog on the defensive side of the ball. He's great speed and range. The linebacker spot. My top quarterback that I don't believe was taken, Sam Levitt, I believe was not taken from Arizona State. He's 51 on my board, so just outside my top 50. But definitely, I think if we had more people, he would have been somebody's quarterback most likely. Sam, if you have other names too, you can throw out.
Yeah, my top quarterback not taken was Aiden Childs, so I think we'll probably go back to school next year, but just want to throw his name out there because we never know this kind of stuff. So Aiden Childs didn't go. Anto Saka didn't go. Ben Taylor Whitfield from TCU was a player who I have the rank that didn't go. I don't think R. Mason Thomas went, and maybe Jim, maybe you grabbed him late, but I forget. I don't think R. Mason Thomas went.
You are correct. He did not get taken.
Okay. B.J. Williams, guard from Pittsburgh, and Keelan Rutgers, guard from Georgia Tech, did not go. Ethan Onyonwa is going to play tackle for Ohio State, but it's going to be guard in the NFL. He did not get taken. Drew Shelton, the offensive tackle at Penn State, did not get taken. Avery Johnson, the quarterback at Kansas State, is available at this one. Let's see who else. Blake Miller, Anthony Donka, offensive tackles from Clemson and Penn State. They did not get taken. Rayon Strader, the quarterback from Auburn, from Miami, Ohio, didn't get taken. Cassius Hallett, edge from Texas A&M. Quite a few names. Then I'd say also Oscar Delp, tight end from Georgia. So a couple of guys who are more well-known, some guys who are maybe a little bit more, my flavor of the month kind of guys who I like a little bit more than others. I'll also throw out guys some more like kind of borderline top 100 players for me. Boubacar Traore, the edge from Notre Dame, is coming off a season-ending injury, but is a really explosive, bendy athlete with a good arm length, overall good body of work. Good athletic profile, but not a lot of body of work, actually, not very many snaps in his career yet. He's another player I throw out there who probably is going to be, I would say, a top 100 pick, but we did not get taken there in this process.
Okay. So we will continue to do these. So Sam, first of all, the fact that you were practicing these and you were mentioning that at the beginning, Sam, so the draft a team, like I came up with a concept. Then it turns out that there was a draft professor that had already been doing this. So Will, who's Accidental Zen, has actually been running these for close to a decade. So, and whenever Will comes on a podcast, he does the same thing you did. Jim, how many teams are we using the bots? Yes or no? Like he has a checklist of criteria that he asked me. So, and ironically, you're both Steelers fans. So we need to get Sam and Will to do this together because I think the two of you will just have fun poking at each other while we do it.
I love stuff like this. Like this is always fun to me because it requires you to adapt on the fly, but also test your knowledge of depth within the class itself, which is good to see. Like you get to kind of get exposed to that. Then you get four-state players you ordinarily wouldn't. Like I said, I'm not a huge Jake Slaughter fan in terms of like where he ranks in this draft class, but I take Jake Slaughter in this case because you have to build the best overall team and think about the team chemistry, think about like your scheme, all that kind of stuff. I know I've kind of only took really like one true interior player, but I've got two big edge rushers can reduce inside a little bit, help out there. And I've got only one linebacker, but I've got a good box safety and I've got a lot of depth at corner. So I think that taking into account those things are things you don't get to do and you're just drafting for, or you don't get to do at this level when you're just drafting for an individual team in a mock draft sim. So I really like this process.
Yes. And we're going to do this. So the more people we involve, today we covered approximately 100 players. We get a few more people involved, we'll be up to, let's say, a top 200. But when we get 8 people involved, it will take us a lot longer than 90 minutes to do this. So this is probably one of the smallest ones of these that we've done. But it was cool because I could hear Anthony and Sam talk about the players in more detail. So that this was actually even a different podcast than when we've done this before, just because with fewer people, you guys could talk about the players more. And definitely enjoyed that. That being said, we are going to sign off. But I guess before we sign off, Sam, do you want to introduce yourself? We forgot to do that at the beginning. So you want to let everybody know about your Substack and all of your other content.
Yep. So my name is Sam Teets. I run the Substack account, which is basically a daily newsletter, Sports Talk with Sam Teets. So you just search up Sports Talk with Sam Teets in Google. It should come up. It's a free to subscribe to newsletter that gives you basically draft reports 5 or 6 days a week. It also gives you some other content, including some exclusive opportunities with the Shrine Bowl and with the Senior Bowl as well later this year. It'll give you some like all conference content, all American content. It will give you weekly recaps in season regarding guys who perform well and maybe brought their stock up in games. So it'll give you some game preview content as well, like players to watch, big boards, mock drafts, all that kind of stuff. And it's all free. All you have to do is go to Sports Talk with Sam Teets on Substack. And you can just put Sports Talk with Sam Teets into Google and it will pop up at the top. And if you subscribe with your email, you get that all sent to your inbox for free. Or you can just follow along for the fun of it. We got more than 1,500 followers at this point. We're coming in on close to 1,000 subscribers right now, so we're hoping to hit that mark this year. But yeah, it's been great to see the newsletter grow. And if you want to follow me on social to see all the clips I post and all the other content I make, you can go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Sam_Teets33.
Anthony.
Yep. Can always find me at Anthony_Russo97. I'm back to posting clips there of guys I watch. And, as we get closer to the start of the college football season in 4 weeks now, I'm going to be doing, a lot more with Draft Professor. I'll be on Fridays and Saturdays. I think we'll be previewing big games for each week. And, obviously as the season goes on, I'll be, finding new prospects and updating my, evaluations I already have. So yeah, follow all my draft contents on my X. So you can follow me there for what I'm sure is going to be a hell of a season to come.
So I appreciate both of you guys helping out with this. This is a lot of fun. In some ways, this is actually more exciting content than the team previews or just going through a big board. Because like Sam said, I think it's more dynamic and you get genuine human reactions to what the boards are like. So I love doing these. This is to the best of my knowledge, this is the only simulator that has this. So definitely helps us stand out and be unique. But you can follow the channel if you want more unique draft coverage at NFL Draft Fanatic. No, I am Fanatic. The same on X as it is on YouTube. The best thank you can give, please and thank you, is to hit subscribe on YouTube. We have daily draft content. And if this was your first time seeing Draft Professor, you missed Anthony and Sam killing it with quarterbacks last night. So last night we had a 2-hour podcast discussing only 5 quarterbacks. So tomorrow we have a cornerback big board with Ian Cummings, Dalton Miller, and we have more podcast content coming to you every night next week. And very soon we will be at 2 podcasts every weeknight at 7 and 9 p.m. Eastern. So daily draft content, and that would imply that the content is unique. It will be content that you have not heard before from people that you haven't heard before. So maybe you've heard a top 10 cornerback board, but you haven't seen Dalton Miller and Ian Cummings do it, right? Those types of things. So guaranteed to be unique content 7 days a week here. But with that being said, for the 85 podcasters at Draft Professor, for Sam and Anthony waking up early on a Saturday morning to pump this podcast out, thank you very much. And we will see you on a podcast again tomorrow night, everybody. Thank you.